a dream. It's a memory. And it makes me sick.
Alice Madness Returns is the sequel to American McGee's Alice. The game takes place a year after the original events of the first game, and Alice is trying to regain her sanity. Well, one thing leads to another, and she finds herself back in Wonderland. And it's a little bit different from the Wonderland you and me remember. It's a bit chaotic and twisted, and she's trying to figure out what's happened to it. Along the way, she's also trying to unravel this bit of insanity that she's been infected with. She can't remember how her parents died. She thinks she may have done it, but you'll find it along the way what happened. The cast consists of her, along with some people from the real world trying to tell her that she's crazy, and of course the usual mainstay of Alice characters like the Mad Hatter, and of course the Queen. The game is interesting to say the least, and it's well performed, but it's a bit garbled, kind of like a dream, and like, the original Alice novels. The main issue I have with the game is that it's trying to build up to this huge conclusion, but in the end, it just kind of falls apart. But this game does have its merits.
Insolence, the arrogance, the execrable table manners, they are destroyers of Wonderland!
When it comes to gameplay, Alice Madness Returns is all about variety. The main game is an action platformer. You go around, you jump from platform to platform, from canyons to floating dominoes, and Alice also has like a little floating jump. It takes a while to get used to, as in general, she's a bit floaty, but it's pretty solid nonetheless. The camera, you do have to fight it from time to time with both combat and the platforming. Speaking of combat, Alice is pretty much armed to the teeth with her butcher knife vorpal blade to her teapot cannon, and even a pepper grinder that serves as pretty much like a machine gun. All your weapons are actually upgradable via teeth. Yes, I said teeth that you collect throughout the land. There are other collectibles as well, such as memories that kind of piece together Alice's kind of insanity. You also have the power to shrink yourself at any time. This will reveal hidden paths, along with also getting you from place to place. Going back to the combat, I was actually quite surprised how much I enjoyed it. It's very fast and fluid, and it reminds me kind of a little bit like Kingdom Hearts, but just on a very a smaller level. It's pretty fun. Now, for the other stuff, there are many games throughout your adventure, and they vary from a side-scrolling shooter to a little side-scrolling platformer. There's all kinds of other stuff in there as well, and while it's fun to break up the monotonous nature of the gameplay, sometimes it got a little bit tedious itself. But all in all, the gameplay controls rather well, except for maybe a little bit the floaty nature of the jumps to the bad camera angles.
Ah, Alice! Delighted to see you again, my dear. Your arrival is filled with fortunatality itself.
This game is absolutely gorgeous. On a technical level, not really. There are glitches from here to there, but the art design is fantastic. From floating card kingdoms to underwater sea adventures, it has it all. Also, all the characters are very it has a very Tim Burton feel. I said that this is the Tim Burton Alice that he wanted to make, but he ultimately failed on because that movie is not very good. Everything from the Mad Hatter's steampunk robot design to Alice looking like a really hot topic girl. It's a very odd design choice, but it works throughout the game. Now, the one problem I have is, while each level has its own unique quirks, everything drags on for far too long. If this game had been trimmed of the fat and more focused on to give you a better experience, it would have been a fantastic game. It would have been as remarkable as the original novel itself. The soundtrack is okay, but the tracks are very sleepy, and they point to more like mood makers than anything. I was hoping for maybe something more fantastical, like, what I would imagine from an Alice game or even a movie. And there's a couple other design choices that I found particularly weird. For one, the game isn't very hard because if you happen to fall off a platform or die, you basically turn into a bunch of butterflies and restart exactly where you left off. So it's very forgiving in that nature. Also, there are no boss battles except the very end. A little bit of a spoiler. There are no boss battles, so you basically go through the level and it seems like there's gonna be a boss battle, but then it just turns into a cutscene, and that's kind of cool. Also, speaking of cutscenes, the whole story is told throughout these kind of animated panels and then also real-time stuff. They both quell together quite nicely. Like I said earlier, the voice acting is well performed. It would have been nice, again, to have it be a more consistent story instead of just being weird. Also, the trips to your reality that you make from time to time serve more as bridges between chapters than anything else, and there's nothing really to do. Though, it's kind of nice to see a bunch of people, as the entire game itself is kind of a lonely adventure for Alice.
So you've said many times, and
Alice Madness Returns was probably the biggest surprise this year. I thought it was just going to be another licensed game that I could throw away, but everything from the gorgeous art designs, the gothicness of it, to the fast fluid combat, and even just the platforming itself. It was a very old school feel, and I thoroughly loved it. However, there are quite a few problems with it. One, the graphics aren't too great. The soundtrack is meh. The camera could use a lot of work along with the story. And just overall, there's just some weird design choices. But if you're looking for another Alice adventure, and if you love the series in general, I'd recommend this game.